Oh, thank God. Listen, man, you gotta help me here. I've been shredded in this goddamn forest for God knows how long. I need... Do you know what is the most insufferable feeling? To have something you love, something you cherish with all of your heart, being mocked and treated as a joke by the others. What? Have you ever played Dark Souls 2? I mean, I played it in the past. People love talking about how Dark Souls changed their lives or how it popped their cherry of creativity, but when it comes to the middle child, everyone's face suddenly twists into the ugly shape of Gwyn's hollow ass. Right. Okay, listen, I really need... Did you know when they say Souls Trilogy out there, they actually mean Dark Souls 1, 3 and Bloodborne? A fucking Bloodborne? Maybe people just don't really like it. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, man. It would have been fine if they only expressed their own opinions as butthurt casuals. But no. They actually think Dark Souls 2 is inferior to the other two. Huh. Do you want to know the real truth though? They dislike Dark Souls 2 not because of gameplay, story, or mechanics, but because it wasn't directed by the big man himself. The lack of bare feet within the game has driven them mad, wild, using this poor game as a stepping stone for their unjust anger. My dear Shanalot, how could they do that to you? I still vividly remember how I discovered this beautiful game. Do you wanna hear about it? I don't really. It was 3 years ago. Son of a... It is year 2018. A time of peace before Chinese lack of hygiene became a major international problem. Hey, wait a minute, you can just say that, bro. Have some tact. Whatever, it's not like I'm getting paid for these videos anyway. Back then, people were more interested in filming random dead bodies in a forest or watch YouTubers beating the shit out of each other instead of wars and abortion right campaigns. Wait a minute, I was young, naive little boy back then. I didn't know how it felt like to be penetrated by millennia or just get gangbanged by smoke and Orstein. I was innocent. My biggest accomplishment at the time was paying some hookers to get into my car in GTA and then boast about it to the rest of my incel friends. The only thing I knew about Dark Souls was the constant complaints and cries from people about how these games were basically a medieval torture device. I was intrigued, cause I'm a fucking masochist. I got Dark Souls 3 Scrolls the first edition from Steam, thinking that since it was a sequel, it would be a more refined and optimized version of the first game that everyone adored. I was apparently wrong. I spent 50 minutes creating my perfect self-insert anime protagonist. Meet Jason Trump, a wandering knight skilled with all weapons but not with women. When he was 9 years old, Andrew Tate called him a beta male, which traumatized him for life. He doesn't like talking about it. After that, I got dumped into the sea and woke up in the middle of nowhere. He also has 9-inch dick. Uncircumcised. Balls clean. This was also where I found my first in-game human interaction, which I lack a lot in real life. This is Johnny. Johnny, you see, was one of the 2 inbred twins in a family. Right now he's sulking here because he ran away from home after his brother brought PlayStation instead of Xbox. And Johnny only liked Xbox. He didn't like when I said I liked PC. Then I stumbled upon a little wooden house that was infested with old hags who apparently liked laughing creepily at every newcomer.
Your face. You're finished. You'll go hollow. Doesn't stand a chance. You lose your souls. All of them. Over and over.
Who do you think I am? Some casual? I'm a pro gamer. I bet Lollipop chainsaw with only one hand. You think this game is hard for me? Ha, I'm out of this living graveyard. See ya! Dark Souls 2 was the first game that introduced me to the hub area mechanic. It was a nice place that had beautiful music and oh my god. The Forest of Giants was where I got my reality check, if you will. A slap in the face, a humble enlightenment, an unseen dick in it. I got fucked up. royally. But it wasn't all that bad though, because I managed to meet Johnny's twin brother. This is Boris. Boris is agitated. You see, he's heartbroken over the tragic reveal that his brother was a fan of Xbox all along. While Elsa mumbling something about what Cortana's posters under his bed making all the sense to him now. It's really hard to see brothers like this, so I tried to give him an encouraging squeeze on the ass to calm him down. He didn't like it. After that, well, this is where I understood why people complain so much about these games. When I say I died 47 times till I reached the fog gate from the nearest bonfire that was in Forest of Giants, I'm not exaggerating one bit. Those zombies there were out for blood, and it was my blood they wanted. I tried killing them one by one, running past them without looking back, trying to trick them into not following me till the end of the map. Nothing worked. They were relentless, wild, savage. I was weak, slow, sluggish, and terribly outnumbered. This was the first time I felt such sense of helplessness and rage about a video game that honestly made me want to watch Boku no Pico to outweigh the raging anger within me with existential crisis to finally calm down. Whoa there, you must have been really fucked up, eh? Why would you even torture yourself like that? Dark Souls 2 is the least optimized, uninteresting title out of 3 games. The only pathetic thing about it was FromSoftware giving it a Dark Souls title, acknowledging it as a sequel to the original game and somehow still getting away with it. It is simply not a good Dark Souls game, bro. It's sluggish, junky mess of a game with uninteresting level design and horrible iframes. The only junky and sluggish thing is the space between your mom's hairy legs. Oh really, huh? You really gonna go in like that, huh? Whoa, just whoa. I might have hated the game at that moment, yes, but it was simply a hate born out of discovering how Dark Souls can be frustrating for the first time. I was a newcomer. This was my first time experiencing being bitch slapped like that from the game. And the iframes were not horrible, you just simply probably didn't level up your adaptability like a stubborn noob. Oh, don't even remind me of that stupid attribute. Why, by the Queen's hollow white cheeks, would anyone think making rolling next to useless and turning it into the stat that you have to level up to gain some invisibility frames was a good idea? We literally had that animation with its max amount of iframes as a base movement in Dark Souls 1. That stat was the most obnoxious, unneeded mechanic that held you back, yet one that you had to level up in order to do even a decent roll from the previous game. Well, maybe you are right about that one. Thank you. Finally we agree on but it still didn't take away from experience. Oh for fuck. Dark Souls 2 has turned into the meme of Souls community where people constantly act like it doesn't exist or say that it was a horrible mistake brought by the arrogance of developers trying to accomplish something revolutionary. They didn't have time or resources to do so. And as a result, we ended up with a lesser quality product that pales in comparison to its predecessor. But is it really the case? Dark Souls 2 was supposed to be an open-world masterpiece that would surpass Dark Souls 1 and go on to create new milestones within the genre. After the rocky start with limited resources and time, Dark Souls 2 was finally put together just before the deadline for the release. It's actually really intriguing and almost sad to see what was originally intended for the game and what we actually got in the end. But that's a story for another time. I like Dark Souls 2. It's not as dark and depressing as Dark Souls 1, which depicts the first-time experience of the curse of undeath that was brought by Gwyn forcefully licking the first flame. Nor does it have the melancholic atmosphere of Dark Souls 3, which depicts rotting and dying world that has been abused for thousands of years by the link of the first flame. It has its own vibe. While Dark Souls 1 and 3 are clearly connected by the same mythos and lore, Dark Souls 2 instead offers you the perspective from the kingdom of Drunk Lake. What I liked most about Dark Souls 2 was its rich roster of NPCs who have interesting questlines and backgrounds. Lucatiel of Mirah is a swordswoman you come across in a game. She is a proud knight who suffers from the same curse as you do. As we learn through the interaction, her strongest fear is losing her memories and the sense of herself. It is an existential crisis that is eating her from inside out. A fear that sadly slowly turns into the reality as we progress further within the game. You can slowly see how she is forgetting certain things as you meet her from time to time, until finally you find her at Aldia's keep where she barely remembers your name. This is the last time we are going to meet her. You know this, and she knows this as well. We all know what becoming hollow means in the game, but to see it from the character's point of view who lives in this world we play in, where this curse is a real danger to them, felt completely different. Lucatiel, to this day, is the most human-like fictional character that I encountered in my years of playing games. She is a proud knight, yes, but she is also a person who suffers from emotional and existential crisis as a curse slowly eats away at her well-being. After experiencing Lucatiel's bittersweet side story, I finally realized that there was no going back to the regular games after this. Lucatiel is just one of the many characters with such sad moments in this game, and the moments like this are the reason why I fell in love with Dark Souls 2 and later on with all of the FromSoftware games. It introduced me to this franchise and I will forever cherish the journey I had with it. Dark Souls 2 has some rough parts, yes, but the experience and feeling you get from it is the same one you find in Dark Souls 1, 3 and even Bloodborne. People like to make mockery of this middle title without properly seeing the beauty that is hidden within. Don't listen to people talking smack about it and experience it for yourself. Dark Souls 2 matters just as much as Dark Souls 1 and 3 does. You must really like this game to make a whole 6-page essay about it, huh? To what end then? No matter how emotional some parts of this game might be, no one's gonna play a decade-old chunky game with a shitty level design and enemy placements. Do you not hear anything I said at all? Yes, it might be rough around the edges, but it doesn't take away from the main experience. Dark Souls 2 is a perfectly good game that deserves its placement in a trilogy. And what through the high gameplay started all of a sudden? The original Demon Souls is the most junky, biggest mess of the Souls game, yet people praise it all the time. Hey, you take that back! Demon Souls worked so Dark Souls 1, 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro and Elden Ring could run. It was the first incarnation of the formula. Some missteps had to be taken so it could have been perfected later on. Is that so, huh? Dark Souls 2 was the third incarnation of the formula and it had no business being the messy as it was. Ugh, I'm tired of this stupid conversation, man. You can like it as much as you want, but it won't change the fact that at its core, it's just a subpar compared to the other titles. Now, help me get out of this damn place. I need the damn medical attention. It's interesting, isn't it? What's interesting? You have been missing for days in this forest with no people in sight. And yet, you suddenly stumble upon some random guy in robes, sitting all alone, with no one in sight. What? I mean, what are you trying to imply? There is this little urban story going on around back where I'm coming from. Wanna hear about it? The story goes on like this. If one ventures into the dark, unpopulated forest all alone, they might come across a night sage there. A night sage? Yes, the urban legend says that these sages are the people who achieved enlightenment through devoting themselves to something they cherish and love. The story says that if you meet one, they will try to show you the beauty of the things they devoted themselves to. And if you reject their words, they will eat you. Eat? Like in? Yes, eat. Now let's think logically. You haven't seen anybody in this forest for days, yet you suddenly run into some robed dude who tries to tell you something good about the thing they like, and you just act like a jerk and degrade the value of the source of their affection. What do you think is going to happen next? Think clearly about it, bitch. Are you going to eat me? Eat you? Hell no, you're not my type. I prefer eating teenagers. Preferably ones with end-tier fetishes. Even the goddamn FBI can do jack shit about it. But no, I'm not going to be one to eat you. Instead, I would like to invite a dear friend of mine to do the honors. What is that? The approach I used the first time might have backfired, but I really wanted to help out the brothers, you know. Oh, that reminds me. You wanna hear something interesting? He might dislike Xbox, but do you know what he hates more than a bunch of men children? People that talk shit about his home. Oh god. This video, dear viewers, was not meant to be an essay explaining the tragic beauty of the world and the story of Dark Souls 2. Instead, it is just a small little piece of advice. Dark Souls 2 is a great game. It has its own worth and meaning if you don't listen to the mockery it receives and play it for yourself. Do not compare it to the other FromSoftware titles and instead judge it from the personal experience it offers you. If you do so, you might find out that it is just as beautiful as the other titles within the franchise. And if it just really isn't for you, that's fine too. Just don't go around slandering the game because of things you personally didn't like about it. Otherwise, the following could be your fate.